Hello guys and welcome back to Car Obsession. Now regular viewers may remember that a little earlier this year I had a quick spin in the new Honda CR-V Hybrid. Lately however I've spent a whole week with one, so have my thoughts on it changed and what do I think of it overall? Now, it wasn't that long ago that I had the first drive in the CR-V, and it wasn't that long ago that that video went live on YouTube. Therefore, I don't really want to talk about the same things, as I don't want to make a carbon copy of my first drive video. So what I would rather do is to talk about how this car has been like to live with for a week. I want to talk about first-hand experience. Now, one of the first things I want to say about this car is it is incredibly easy to drive. It's a very easy-going car. You've got the automatic transmission, of course, which makes driving this car an absolute doddle. The transmission is also smooth and responsive as long as you treat it in the right manner. Now, attached to this powertrain, the hybrid system, you have Honda's eCVT gearbox, which is fixed at, it's a single ratio gearbox, automatic transmission. And as long as you're driving it without any kind of anger, it's smooth, it's seamless, and it works away in the background with no real problems. However, when you put your foot down, you do get that famous rubber band effect that you get from a CVT gearbox. And yeah, the smoothness and the seamlessness washes away a little bit. So I would argue this car is best driven at kind of half throttle. This isn't really a car that likes to be hurried. But that's fine by me, because it means that you can sit back in this very comfortable driver's seat and just go about your journey pleasantly and without any kind of haste. I imagine this is a car that you could drive for a long journey with very little issues. Granted, the ride isn't as good as the all-wheel drive version. I've got the front-wheel drive version, and yeah, it is a little bit more jiggly, and it doesn't soak up the bumps quite as well, but I definitely wouldn't call it uncomfortable. But yes, on the whole, the Honda CR-V Hybrid is a very easy car to drive. Now, let me talk about the powertrain, because that is obviously one of the biggest differences between this car and the petrol version. So underneath the bonnet, you have a 2-litre Atkinson Cycle petrol engine, which feeds its power to a generator motor. That generator motor then feeds its power to the electric motor, which powers the front wheels, or if you have the all-wheel drive version, it will power all of the wheels. This car produces 184 horsepower with 315 Newton meters of torque. In regard to performance figures, this car will hit 62 miles per hour in 8.8 seconds and continue to a top speed of 112 miles per hour. Although I said a few moments ago this car doesn't like to be rushed, this car can be quite responsive when you want it to be off the line. But like I said, it's best that you drive it at kind of half throttle. And it has got a good amount of pickup to it. The hybrid system also has Honda's IMMD system, which stands for Intelligent Multi-Mode Drive. And in essence, you have 3 driving modes that the car will change between seamlessly and smoothly. You don't even notice that the changes are taking place, which is fantastic engineering. So you've got EV only mode, where the car drives only in electric mode, but the range is only 1.2 miles, so not very far at all, or that's 2 kilometers if you prefer things in kilometers. You then of course have hybrid drive, which will be the default setting for this car. So that's when the 2-litre engine feeds power to the generator motor, which then powers the electric motor, which then powers the wheels. It all sounds quite involved, but thankfully it is a lot easier to use than it is to explain in great detail. And of course, last but not least, you have engine drive. This is when you are driving at faster speeds or you are cruising on the motorway. The engine will provide the sole power for the car thanks to a lock-up clutch, which is able to attach the transmission directly to the engine, and of course that then powers the wheels. For the most part, this car will of course be driven in hybrid mode. And because of the hybrid powertrain, it's also very quiet in here. Now, I know I mentioned that in my first drive video, but that's one of the key things that stands out for me about the CR-V Hybrid, is so quiet in here. Now, yes, you do get a bit of road noise from these 18-inch alloys. It is noticeable. Does it ruin the interior ambience? No, it doesn't. I don't feel as if I have to shout at you. And if I had any passengers, I wouldn't feel the need to shout at them either. As well as the iMMD system, you also have a sport driving mode, which, as I said in my first drive video, does seem a little bit redundant in a car like this. However, when you do put it into sport mode, it can be pretty responsive. Just wait for a little bit of a gap in the traffic. It's not too bad, actually. However, like I said, this car, in my opinion at least, doesn't really need a sports mode. One driving mode that you do have, which I think is more beneficial, is the Econ mode. So that is the mode that you want to use if you want more economical driving. And I've also got a button marked here for EV, so that's when the car is EV only. Now, I'm sure what you really want to know about is fuel economy. So, using the old NEDC method of testing, Honda states that this powertrain will give me 53.3 mpg on a combined run, and in my experience I've been getting around 53, which is pretty respectable. Now, it is worth mentioning that the roads have been very quiet this week because all of the schools have been on school holidays thanks to Easter. However, let's not take anything away from the Honda, because that's not bad going really in regard to fuel economy. But what about CO2 emissions? Well, CO2 emissions, this car emits 120 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning for the first year of VED, you'll be required to pay £170. For those of you interested in having this as a company car, the BIK rating is 28%. So that's how much it will cost you to run the car, but how much is it to buy? There are 4 trim levels available: S, SE, SR and EX, which range from £29,730 all the way through to £37,880. The model I have here is the SR trim level, which sits just below the range-topping EX and is priced from £34,470. It's worth noting this is the highest trim level you can go for if you go for front-wheel drive, because the EX only comes with all-wheel drive. But what do you get for this one? Well, you get 18-inch alloys, LED headlights, keyless entry, rear privacy glass, 7-inch touchscreen, DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity, navigation supplied by Garmin, reversing camera, front and rear parking sensors, dual zone climate control, heated front seats, plus a whole raft of safety equipment. However, the car you see here is actually £35,020 because I've got the optional platinum white pearl paintwork, which looks really enticing when the sun hits it. It is a beautiful shade of white. The boot is a little bit smaller than the petrol version of the CR-V thanks to the hybrid system, but you still get a very healthy 497 litres worth of space. As you can see, the opening is square and wide, which makes it easier to load bigger, heavier items, and the load lip is low down and there's not a nasty step into the boot. It's all nice and flat, which once more makes it easier to load bigger or heavier items. But if you need more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats like so. You've got a lever either side, a piece of cake, very easy indeed. And by doing so, you'll be greeted by a whopping 1,697 litres worth of space. So much space, very impressive. Now, in case you are wondering, you can't have a spare wheel because of the hybrid system, because of the space taken up by the batteries, nor can you have this car as a 7-seater. But on the whole, the boot is very spacious and very practical. And one thing I almost forgot to mention, you also get a 12-volt socket back here. So Honda has clearly put a lot of thought into the practicality of this car, which I like. It's not just the boot that impresses. As you can see, the rear of the CR-V Hybrid offers a gargantuan amount of space. Even with the driver's seat set for me, I'm 6'2", I've got loads of knee room and plenty of leg room. Plus I can stretch back and really relax. Well done, Honda. You've clearly put a lot of thought here. I've also got a good amount of headroom as well, although it is worth noting, if you go for the EX model, which comes standard with the panoramic roof, you do lose a bit of headroom, but for this car, I've got no problem whatsoever. Could you fit 3 adults back here? Yes, you can. Granted, the one sat in the middle may feel a little bit squashed, but I have had 3 grown adults in the back with very little complaints. The transmission tunnel is minimal, and I've still got a good amount of headroom as well. So yes, you can fit 3 adults in here. But if you happen to only have 2 people in the back or 1 person, they can make use of this armrest for better comfort. Very nice. And you've also got 2 cup holders in there for added practicality. And the practicality doesn't end there, because you've got 2 USB ports down here where your rear passengers can charge their smartphone or their tablet on the move, or indeed any other electrical device. You've got hooks where you can hang up an item of clothing. And you've also got door bins which offer a decent amount of space. Oh, one more thing, you've also got pockets in the back of the front seats where you can pop a map or a magazine. So, like the boot, the rear space of the CR-V Hybrid has been well thought out. Well done, Honda. Better still, the rear doors open at virtually 90 degrees, so it is easier to get in or out, as I shall now demonstrate. There we are. Easy peasy. The theme of spaciousness continues into the front because, frankly, I've got quite a lot of cubby holes. Now, I do apologise if it is a little bit dark in here. I do have plenty of black leather, so if the lighting is a little bit iffy, yeah, I can only say sorry. Anyway, back onto the space. The door bins are of a good size. I've been able to fit in a 500ml bottle of drink in there with plenty of space left over. In the middle, I've got 2 cup holders, which I can just about squeeze a 1 litre bottle of drink in there, like so. You've got a small cubby hole where you can pop the key, or perhaps 1 or 2 smaller items, perhaps a packet of chewing gum. Lift up the adjustable centre armrest and you'll find a deep cubby hole here where you can pop quite a few items in. So I've got a packet of crisps in the glove box, which I can transfer into here. And I've still got plenty of space left over. You also have a tray which can be slid forwards or backwards, or you can remove it altogether if you don't want or need it. Let's go back to the glove box. I've got my packet of crisps here, pop them back in, and as you can see, the glove box offers a decent amount of space. And last but not least, you also have a sunglasses holder, which is handy for a day like today, which also doubles up as a wide-angle rear view mirror. So if you're on a family road trip and you want to keep an eye on the children in the back to make sure they are not misbehaving, you can do so. So like the rear and the boot, Honda has clearly put some thought in here, which I do really like. Better still, now this isn't in regards to space, but this is for comfort. On the centre console, on either side, you have pads of leather that you can rest your leg on. So it means you get better comfort. Again, it's the little touches which really do add up to a pleasant driving sensation. Now let me move on to the ports in here. So you've got 2 12-volt sockets in here. You've got 2 USB ports, and you've also got a HDMI port, which you probably won't need, but it's there in case you need it. So yes, the front of the CR-V, like the boot and the rear, has been well thought out. Well done, Honda. I have to say, spending a week with this car has been pleasant. I think pleasant is a good word for this car. These leather seats are comfortable. I've not had any issues in regard to support or lack of support as the week has gone by. One thing I will say is that they do feel a little bit slippery, But apart from that, they are most comfortable indeed. The front seats are heated, although on a day like today, you simply don't need such a function. And you've also got a very nice armrest, which is adjustable, give you better comfort. You've got leather on the door cards as well, which again you can rest your elbow on. Very handy indeed, very comfortable. And Honda has put a lot of thought into this car. Now, there is of course a problem with designing a car that is biased towards comfort. This car isn't particularly good in the corners. It's a big car, it's a heavy car, so you do get a fair bit of pronounced body roll, and this is not a car that will excite you going through corners. Although, let's be honest, this is a Honda CR-V. It's a family SUV designed to be practical, spacious and comfortable. Therefore, it's not designed to be dynamic in the corners or to make your heart race or your blood pump. So if you're buying this car expecting a dynamic drive, well, you will be disappointed. What I will say though is I do quite like the weight of the steering. The steering is quite nicely weighted. It hasn't got a massive amount of feedback, of course, but I quite like the steering. It feels self-assured. I've got confidence in it. And the weight of it really has a bit of substance behind it.
What about safety? The hybrid version does of course share the same architecture as the petrol version, therefore buyers will get a car that has been awarded 5 stars from Euro NCAP. Standard safety features include 7 airbags, autonomous emergency braking, hill start assist, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, speed limiter, low speed following and traffic sign recognition. The SR model adds to this with blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. I must say, the week I spent with the Honda CR-V Hybrid was a pleasant one. It's easy to drive, very practical, very spacious and very comfortable. Okay, so it's not the most frugal SUV money can buy, but it's bound to appeal to those who want to upgrade from an older diesel CR-V, or for those looking to buy a CR-V that's cheaper to run than the petrol version.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.